Hello, all. Hello,
Matt.
Hey, everybody. What's going on?
Woo! Celebration time.
It is celebration time, and we have so much to cover today. Welcome.
So I have this new limited edition shirt. See, everybody? I just turned it backwards. Turn it around.
Are you selling them out of your house, Mark?
Just through these videos. So we're going to have a little toast, everybody. This is another listening lounge. It's been a while, hasn't it, gentlemen?
It has been a bit.
So we traditionally welcome everybody to this lighthearted hour of fun and information. We're launching some new cool product lines, and we're going to give you all the details. But first and foremost, let's do a little round of what the refreshment is, and while everybody gathers some refreshment as well.
Fantastic. Well, Mark, what are you drinking?
You know, I am celebrating with one of my favorite beers in the world, Delirium Tremens. You know, some trips to Europe and Brussels, and I'm going to even pour it in the appropriate glass.
Oh wow!
We have a. This is a big day. Okay.
That is a big day. Delirium Tremens in the specialty glass. That crystal looked really, really nice. So this is embarrassing, but you know what? I'm proud to drink it. It's the Coke Zero or the Coca-Cola Zero Sugar in the baby can, and that just sounded refreshing for me today. And I want to break the trend. We're always doing beers and alcohols of all sorts.
That's right.
And I want it to be totally acceptable that we're just having a fun beverage, and it doesn't have to be an alcoholic one.
You could use the caffeine, I think.
Yeah, the caffeine is useful. I'm moving in the next couple of days, and I've packed up all the goodies. So this is all I've got left in the fridge.
Well,
aren't those little baby cans?
Caramel color.
Aren't those meant for like a little bourbon, like a proper mix with bourbon?
That's probably right. I don't know if I've ever put Coca-Cola into bourbon. I am not going to start now.
Fine, that's cool.
DoorDash, just saying.
Touché. Okay, Mr. Matt Klipsch.
Just like every time, I'm drinking red wine in a metal cup. So cheers, gentlemen.
Keeping it classy over there, Matt. I like
Keeping it classy. Cheers, everybody, and welcome to our very special edition of Reference and Reference Premiere Listening Lounge.
Cheers.
Cheers. It's been a long time coming. I hope the folks on listening have heard of these lines of products before. They're quite important to us. I think we've had reference or reference premiere speakers in our homes over the years. I don't know. Mark's probably had reference in all 7 generations of it at some point or another.
Yeah,
it just keeps getting better.
Yeah, it's amazing. I'm not even sure what version we're on now, like as far as iteration. But there are, when Reference was started and Reference Premiere was started, that copper cone color was shocking. I remember when that came out. It defined that product. So we'll get more into that. Speaking of copper cones, I want to talk a little bit about, we've got some giveaways. We have a whole bunch of content for everybody today. It's an insane amount of content, probably the most we've ever had. But we have some giveaways. The best questions in the chats will be 2 of the best questions will be picked to win some monitors. So let's show a picture of what we've got. 2 different kinds of monitors. And we'll pick these post-show, so don't hang on waiting to see if you're picked or not.
Yeah.
Let's start with the RP600M Mark IIs.
Woo!
Check those babies out. So I think these were just recently reviewed by Andrew Robinson as well. So we've got some really high marks for these. But look at those gorgeous speakers.
Yeah. So Steve Guttenberg's real happy with them.
Yeah, so that will be one lucky winner. We'll get those, and then let's see what else we have. Another set of looks like bookshelf speakers. These are the R50Ms.
Sweet,
super sexy.
Sweet.
I'm seeing giant horns. I'm seeing edge-to-edge horns on everything.
Oh yeah. Yep. Vlad has a lot to share with us. And so we have been planning this for some time. It's certainly taken years of engineering. And, Matt, I know you'll appreciate this. Vlad, you will too, of course. But you know how we all kind of joke around about the unofficial slogan is no bullshit. And, that started when PWK read some advertisements in a stereo review magazine about the latest breakthrough with some speakers back in the day. And he basically just said in his gruff voice, bullshit, And
you can hear him saying it.
Oh, I love it. I mean, I just loved hearing him say it and talk, and he was so fun. But, here's why. The evolution of Klipsch products represents fine engineering, design, and refinement. And what we're going to experience with these new lines, what you're going to learn about is it wasn't just one breakthrough that suddenly there's a Mark II or there's a new line. It's a lot of improvements, some subtle, some a little more noticeable, that add up to this vastly improved product. And it's that combination of all these things and the hard work. There's no substitute for hard work from our engineering teams, the hours spent, the toil, the dedication, and the passion that results in these new products that will last a long time. So, I just wanted to let everyone know that we always do hearken back to our founder and, what would make him proud for his namesake. And in the year 2022, what does the brand represent to its customers, our most important audience? So we're very happy to have this session today. Very happy to do this.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And two quick comments on that, Mark. I think it was a really great point. Excuse me. The BS button and obviously the unofficial slogan. So that resulted also in a brochure right after that. That the title was "Ho Hum, Another Major Breakthrough." And so basically, Paul was saying, everything that's out there is not magic. You have to be able to call BS when you see it. So I think that's great. And the other comment that I wanted to make is we were just talking last week, the three of us, about the PWK principles, the sound principles of what he stood for and what he believed was part of a great loudspeaker. Loudspeaker design. And so I think what's interesting about that is how that's been translated into the new reference lines, which we're going to talk about today. So I feel like that's a great way to say, you can call BS on ourselves and just say, does this subscribe? And we put it to the test, and man, do these things live up to it. So that's fantastic.
So I'll talk a little bit about design philosophy. You guys wanted me to do that, so I'll try to do a short version of it. We've talked about it many times in our videos, but this does go back to what Paul Klipsch has established for us. And he established with the Klipsch horn and all the products we've been making for how many years? Over 75 years. We're in our 76th year, right, guys? So a long legacy. And this design philosophy is basically this. If you want a loudspeaker system to reproduce the power, detail, and emotion of a live performance, it has to do it without effort. Effort is what creates problems for loudspeakers. And what we're referring to here is efficiency, high sensitivity. So basically, Paul Klipsch discovered this. All things being equal, quality components, everything being equal, high sensitivity, high efficiency, and distortion are inversely proportional. Okay, so as efficiency goes down a loudspeaker, guess what goes up? Distortion. But with our products, the higher the sensitivity, inherently the less distortion. And he identified types of distortion for the manufacturers of the day in the 40s and 50s. Amplifier manufacturers, Saul Marantz, Avery Fisher, he knew all these people, founding fathers of the industry. But he identified a type of distortion that was really more annoying to the human ear than harmonic distortion. And that was modulation distortion, which speakers are very guilty of when they're overdriven or just they can't handle the sound pressure that you're trying to, they can't do the dynamics, which low sensitivity speakers suffer from modulation distortion. But total harmonic distortion, of course, in amplifiers is important as well, but modulation and distortion affects amplifiers as well. So identifying this and really making products that respond and cater to the human hearing mechanism. He always related it back to the way we hear. So that is very important. And then it allows us to reproduce dynamic range. Dynamic range is what makes sound seem real. So dynamic range is the difference between the softest sounds and the most powerful and loud sounds. And really, you need to be excellent throughout the range. You need to deliver the detail at low volume, the clarity all through. But then when it comes to the really powerful stuff, you can't be distorting. It has to be clean. You need dynamic headroom. Has everybody heard that before? Dynamic headroom. It's often referred to when we talk about amplifier power. You want plenty of dynamic headroom, extra power so it can handle those dynamic peaks, those transients in movie soundtracks, in dynamic music, classical music, electronic music, rock, whatever. So dynamic range is an outstanding attribute of Klipsch products just by the nature of our high efficiency, high sensitivity. With 50 watts, we can do what it takes with another loudspeaker requiring 500 watts, okay? If we have that 10 decibel advantage, that's a 10-fold power difference. So this is real world benefits. Here's another real world benefit, because I talked with one of our internal team members yesterday about it. An audio video receiver delivering multiple channels, 7 channels of amplification, drawing off one power supply. It may be rated for 150 stereo, but what is it delivering simultaneously into all 7 channels? Let's say maybe it's 50 watts, maybe it's 100 watts, but if it's 50 somewhere per channel, Klipsch will take the 50 watts and give you fantastic dynamic performance. Where another loudspeaker of lower sensitivity, it's going to suck up all that power and it's not going to give you the dynamic, powerful soundtrack that the Klipsch will. So the high efficiency advantage is really a significant advantage in the real world. And then, okay, let's go real quick. Horns. Horn-loaded systems, control directivity, focusing the sound into the listening area. For stereo, it's 2 speakers. When they're towed in, they create a sound stage and they audibly disappear. You hear the sound stage. You hear where the musicians are. Depth, height, width. And these new designs, Vlad will get into, make it even bigger sounding and outside the speakers, but really creating that illusion, that auditory presentation of musicians and the live performance. Now, when it comes to multi-channel, control directivity is also very important. You have multiple channels that are working all together, surrounds, height channels, that together in unison are delivering this seamless motion and movement of a movie soundtrack. So as sound moves around, you know, I think of helicopters flying around you like in John Wick, or rainstorms, or, you know, pick a movie. The latest one of our favorites is Dune. You know, the atmospheric sound is fantastic. Pick an older movie like The Dark Knight, Batman. It's a foreboding soundtrack, and the music, it really creeps you out with the emotion that's delivered with this envelopment. So when your multi-channel sound system really immerses you and you forget that you're listening to an audio video system and you're really pulled into the movie, that's what a great system will do. Same with 2-channel. You forget where you are. The lights are off. You have your favorite beverage. You're listening to your favorite music. Maybe it's a little bit later at night. You lose yourself. That's what a great system will do. And then the last element is kind of related to control directivity, consistent sound performance from room to room. It's flat, natural frequency response. So from everyone's perspective, I guess it would be bass, mids, highs. It's flipped. So I'm flipping my presentation, but the audio spectrum is flat and natural and delivered with equal weight, energy, and presence in the real world, not in just the test chamber, the anechoic test chamber, but in the real world. So we're not reflecting and bouncing sound around, which can create a jagged frequency response in your listening position. But with control directivity, you are getting consistent frequency response. So that just means smooth sound. And I've also said this about audio video receivers, modern ones that do room correction. I submit that if you have a Klipsch system that with control directivity, you already have room correction because you're not aggravating reflections. Okay. I have a funny position about that. I like doing it old school, but I think the newer techniques are pretty darn great in the new AVR. So that's cool too. So that's a brief. I tried to be brief, guys. Okay.
You went in a lot of directions there, and I'd love to expand on every one of them. But
I know you would, Vlad. I know. I see you chomping at the bit. But the design philosophy, everybody, that's from Paul Klipsch. Okay. And here's another topic that's a popular topic. Our steep slope crossover networks that we integrate with Heritage, and how Paul Klipsch likes to blend drivers, keep them in their optimum operating band. Here's another thing about horn drivers. The air mass in the horn operates as a mid-range driver. So if you see a two-way reference or reference premiere, it's almost like a three-way with the way it operates between mids and the bass driver and even the high frequencies. So there are a lot of little details we can get into. We might have to have other listening lounges about that stuff. So, and then there's another one about how we rate sensitivity. It goes back to the Audio Engineering Society and Paul Klipsch. So anechoic measurements plus a value that relates to half space open plane measurement that really is an accurate depiction of what the speakers will reproduce in the typical home environment. This is not an anechoic chamber. An echo-free chamber doesn't exist in nature. So the way we specify our speakers goes back to Audio Engineering Society standards. And we'll cover that as well, because we want everybody to understand why Klipsch, why our specs are the way they are. So there are a lot of topics we could cover. I know I need to be brief, but with this new line, all of this applies. Everything that Paul established for Heritage and the foundation products in our company, we wanted to create modern loudspeaker systems that fit easily in the home environment, but still embody all of these attributes. The big sound of Klipsch, but with easy to live with, elegant, modern, sleek, slim, attractive loudspeaker systems. That's exactly what Reference and Reference Premiere deliver.
That's fantastic, man. And, you know, they used to say that if you asked Paul Klipsch a question, the response would be like drinking from a fire hose. I think, Mark, you have earned that moniker because it really, there's just so much that has been considered and thought of, especially with these new lines, you know, and there's so much to talk about. One thing I would love to do right now is I'd love to kick it off and just kind of show people Reference. What is Reference? I'd love to hear from Vlad after that about what Reference is, what he's excited about it. But let's level the playing field and kind of show everybody what this stuff is. I'm gonna try. We got a little notice that there was no audio on the countdown video, so I'm gonna look for a new way to post this video and see if we can make this happen. Sorry for the delay, but yeah, if we can get the video up and going, we can kind of show everybody a little bit about what's going on with Reference. What are you guys excited about while I'm looking for this video?
There's a couple of elements. Reference is basically a full revolution in the way that we've designed that speaker. And Reference Premiere is don't mess with a good thing, accentuate the things that are good, and remove some of the elements people may have, you know, there was room for improvement. So the revolution was in Reference. It's a new design. It's fastenerless. It's a beautiful design that fits with your home. It's much closer to that Reference Premiere look and feel. The horn, edge to edge, it's massive. It means the bigger horn really means that for every speaker you would have bought from the previous generation, now you can go one step down almost and get that same auditory experience. Because realistically, you're going to be pairing these things with subwoofers most of the time. So the low frequency extension is going to be taken care of there. The mid-range is going to be handled by very capable drivers, which, by the way, are all new as well. They're steeper angled cones. The material's more rigid. It's thinner. Everything you would want. Less mass, more rigidity, that steeper angling. This thermocrystalline polymer material works awesome. And last but not least, with the little kind of usability refinements, and that is Atmos. So Atmos is really critical. It's more important than it ever has been. I'm so happy that more and more streaming services, it's almost all of them now, have taken Atmos to heart and gotten that like immersive experience in a streaming format, and you can do it with newer TVs via HDMI eARC. It's just so much easier to get great content. I can poke holes in a couple of streaming services where I'm still not seeing original content coming out in Dolby Atmos and Dolby Vision or even HDR format, but there's very few. There's less and less every day. So the Dolby Atmos connections on the back of Reference and Reference Premiere are wired through the inside of the cabinet, so you no longer have to string that wire all the way to the top and have this kind of rat's nest of cables to deal with. You can have a really nice organized set of cable management. It's easier to get into Atmos than it ever has been before. So if you buy our Atmos toppers, you can put them on top of the speaker. They already come with jumper cables that fit just perfectly. There's no cutting cables, there's no running extra wires. And if you have an open floor plan, which a lot of us do, oftentimes you could see the side of the speaker or the back of the speaker, and you don't want that to look bad. So that's one little area of refinement that got there. So that's Reference. Bigger horns, all new design, which you guys have now probably seen on our website and elsewhere. Entirely updated woofers, borrowing a lot of Reference Premiere technology, but still in a very affordable package. You'll see that the prices of these speakers haven't changed much, whereas the performance has increased significantly. And Reference Premiere kind of subscribe to a lot of the same elements. You'll see design-wise, it's just been refined. There's a new input cup. We're using aluminum binding posts. It's way more hi-fi with jumper cables. You're seeing from the front face of the cabinet, instead of this line that went to a fine edge, now you're seeing just this clean top to bottom, symmetrical, slimming chamfer on the front of the speaker. And again, you're seeing that horn get bigger. And you can see from the 5-inch, we basically borrowed the 6.5-inch horn. The 6.5-inch, we took the 8-inch horn. The 8-inch horn got bigger. So you're getting that bigger experience from the smaller speakers. And once you step up to the RP8000F with the larger horn, it's that much closer to an RF7. And there's other technology that we've borrowed from the RF7 as well. Those bifurcated cabinets that enhance cabinet bracing. Now each woofer has its separate cabinet volume. Then what that brings is, I hate to use the word clarity, but clarity is it. It's not clarity to the vocal range or the high range. It's clarity to the upper bass, the mid range, and areas where now you've got like this tonality of multiple instruments. You've got everything really happens in the mid range.
Yeah.
Like
mid bass is not easy to give definition and clarity. So that's taking a hard look at the whole spectrum, right, Vlad? And where can we make improvements?
So, yeah, and we were driving to lunch the other day, and Mark, you said something that stayed with me. When you get into hi-fi or your ears start getting acclimated to listening to different speakers, and you become more discerning. First it starts with bass. You could easily tell, oh, that speaker has more bass than that speaker. Then it goes to the highs, which ones have more of that sparkle, shimmer. You could tell that excitement is there. But really, it ends up in the mid-range, where really everything is. It's probably the hardest to discern, because until you get to that mid-range and then you realize, oh, the separation of all of the instruments, the difference between a male and female vocal, that all exists directly in the mid-range. And those cabinet resonances make a major problem in discerning and separating out those instruments to feel and hear the layering of various instruments. That all exists right there, with the exception of a kick drum. Kick drum is going to be in the bass region. A hi-hat, that's going to be in the highs, and you could tell that apart.
Well, I tell you, Matt and I know the difference with kick drum tuning, and if the drummer's playing beater into the head or releasing it off the head, just how well. I mean, I'm fanatical about bass drum tuning. As a drummer.
So much, it can get crazy. But I will say to your point, Mark, that and Vlad, that a lot of that stuff, there's a lot of bass drum information in the mid range, and there's a lot of bass drum information in the highs if it's recorded well, because you need the snap. But Paul Klipsch said the mid range is where we live. And I think that's very important. We've evolved that way to be able to pick up a lot of those sounds. We've got the video kind of cocked and ready to go. Brittany did an amazing job of getting it ready. So do you guys want to hear? Let's do it.
All right.
Woo! I'm assuming everybody could hear that.
Yes, yes, it worked perfectly. It's awesome.
Goes by real fast, but there's a lot of really great stuff in there.
Yeah, excellent content. And, like we mentioned, it's more, the reason that we're here is to give an emotional response to what the videos present, really. And, on the reference line, I think, our acoustics engineer, which we have a video clip of him talking about the advancements and the enhancements and things. The emotional response is, this is way closer to Reference Premiere than ever before. And that's because really Reference Premiere enabled that. Reference Premiere took that next step up in being like, you don't want to call it a mid-fi speaker. It's always been a hi-fi speaker, but that one more step towards getting even closer to that immersive, great, awesome sounding experience. And it's definitely worth a listen. As much as we talk about specifications and things like sensitivity and distortion really matter. I mean, Mark, you and I have seen the distortion plots on a lot of these speakers, and they are really, 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 really low distortion.
Well, I'm telling you, first, second, third, fourth, fifth order distortion in the reference lines are truly state of the art. It's amazing what the team has done. And I think everyone's going to enjoy the videos we have of Chris and Jay speaking specifically to each line that they managed. That's really good stuff.
The video from Jay, if we can. Go ahead, Mark. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I was going to say, we used to joke around in the halls here at headquarters and with the sales team of, Reference and Reference Premiere, the stratification, and then Heritage. And Reference is not an entry line, okay? It is no longer an entry level line. Reference is really fantastic. And when you hear Jay talk about it, you can tell he has a lot of pride in the work that he did.
Yeah, fantastic. Let's look at that, Britt, if we could.
Yep.
Hi, my name is Jay Lawyer, and I've been with Klipsch for 20 years. I'm an acoustic engineer, and primarily I will be discussing the reference line. So the current generation reference product has new, larger horns, new and improved cones and cone shape, and also the materials in the LTS tweeter has had a revision. The new generation of reference is really a greater step towards achieving Reference Premiere sound signature at a lower cost. This is done by several improvements, one of which is a new lighter tweeter diaphragm using the same LTS technology we've used previously. Also, the cone shape has been changed from a curvilinear cone to a straight-sided cone. What this does is it actually changes the breakup mode near crossover frequency. So you wind up with a speaker that is much smoother and much easier to integrate in the crossover region. The new generation has larger horns, which helps us give a wider dispersion and a better integration at the crossover point to help with polar response where the tweeter and woofer come together. So the new reference line also has updated bracing in the cabinet, and this will help with unwanted standing waves. Finally, the reference subwoofers. These have had increased cabinet volume and reconfigured port tuning to enhance the bass response. The new reference design really takes it to the next level and gets you closer to that reference Premiere sound.
Fantastic. We've been working with Jay Lawyer for a very long time, 20 plus years, industry veteran.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He's very passionate.
Well, definitely talked about the cabinet bracing that Vlad mentioned with this, the edge-to-edge horn, the input panel, all the updates and changes. It's not just a cosmetic thing. There's many acoustic advantages and upgrades that we've made over the previous model as well. So, and to Mark's point, if you considered reference as an entry level, to me, I have to recalibrate my scale as to what's aspirational, because that's a fantastic entry level speaker. I mean, it blows everything else away that I've heard.
Well, I'll share a little insight. Being with Klipsch for 30 plus years, I have to do calculations to remember how long I've been
showing your age there.
It's 31 years now in April. So, to make expensive loudspeakers, that's not too difficult. To make affordable high performance speakers, that's difficult. Pro Media 2.1. I did that in 1999 and 2000. Very difficult to deliver high performance, but very affordable. So reference is not easy. Jay had a tough task. And a lot of the trickle down technology, this is kind of cool when you have stratification of lines. What you learn here, and then you can apply it the next generation here. So a lot of the woofer cone technology in reference, LTS started in reference Premiere. So linear travel suspension. So a lot of these improvements to trickle down into more affordable price points, that's what it's all about, benefits for affordable product. And, I get on the soapbox about this, but audio gear is a great investment. And what's kind of cool about Klipsch is you're almost buying what's going to be relevant in the future today. So it's really a sound investment. It's a good investment because in 5, 10, 15 years, they're still going to be ahead of other products in the marketplace in so many ways, just because of our unique approach. So it's a darn good investment. And considering today, when you bring up investments with people, they might be scratching their head about what's a good investment today. But good audio gear, great audio gear, that's what we're talking about. And I think that we learned in the pandemic about the value of home entertainment and where our dollars are really well spent. People started to reassess where they spent money on the weekends, for example. And if you're staying home and you're with your family and your quality time, you're cooking at home, home theater, music, 2-channel. And one thing I really did want to emphasize, I know I'm all over the place right now, but one thing I did want to emphasize about these new lines is, for instance, Reference Premiere. They are stunning 2-channel products. Stunning 2-channel products. And I'm going to be talking more with my friend at Carry Audio about tube integrated amps with RP600M Mark IIs. Great hi-fi system, giant killer. And when I say giant killer, I'm not talking about size necessarily. I'm also talking price point. You can spend 5 digits on an audio system, and with Klipsch you can spend 4 digits and contend with these really expensive systems and have attributes in this hi-fi system that the other systems just can't do. There are some things that Klipsch can do that is physically impossible with other loudspeakers for dynamic range and authority. So I am an advocate for 2-channel listening with these new reference products. Stunning for 2-channel stereo listening, where what we refer to as transfer function, this ability of 2 speakers to not just deliver soundstage, but when the mix is done properly, and you know this, Matt, when engineers in the studio want the sound to move behind you, the transfer function in a properly set up stereo system will do that. You will absolutely have this envelopment. And that's what's great about 2-channel. And you can lose yourself in your music, just absolutely lose yourself. So I have been listening quite a bit to the new product. That's what's, let's see here, right here, everything's reversed, right here, and right here.
It's like a drunk driving test right now. Yes. You got to walk this line. Well,
but
you know, and
2-channel.
I want to interject real quick. I want to go back because we will get to Reference Premiere. And we will get to that sort of that 2-channel premium experience. But I want to go back. I just posted a picture here real quick because if you're into Reference, we've got to talk about Reference. And you're into movies and music, Dolby Atmos. The Reference line offers 2 options as far as a tower. We've offered an integrated solution, which is this for Dolby Atmos, plus also the using the Dolby Atmos topper as a surround sound on the wall itself. Vlad, you were talking earlier about the envelopment that you get from this system. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on here?
Yeah, absolutely. I found another good question, which hit home, but I'll respond to it later. Yeah, Dolby Atmos is obviously the most immersive way to listen to media, and with reference base, I also even want to rewind back a little bit when Mark said it's pretty easy to make an expensive speaker. It's very challenging to make an inexpensive speaker. And where can you find the money to essentially upgrade the things that matter, which is the acoustic performance of the product, and fine tune everything that you need to fine tune ultimately. That's been our absolute biggest challenge with both Reference and Reference Premiere, is where can we accumulate enough money in the piggy bank so we can spend it on the stuff that Chris Perrins and Jay Lawyer really want to spend money on in order to get that next level of performance. Because to Mark's point, it's really easy to make an expensive speaker, make it out of an exotic wood material, give it a shape that's really unique and rounded and curvy, make it difficult to assemble, and great, we'll be able to manufacture and ship 3 per month. Each one of them will cost $15,000, and they won't sound any better. It's where can you spend the right little bit of money in order to make the product ultimately better, and it's kind of a hidden component of what you're seeing here in these new product lines, whether it's Reference or Reference Premiere. Reference now doesn't have any fasteners across the front of it, and how much of a challenge is it to manufacturing and mechanical engineering in order to make that product look better, to remove those fasteners and still make it easy and affordable to assemble. Those are things that are rarely thought of by some of the more specialty product manufacturing practices. They will use an exotic material. They'll use an exotic process. Nobody's going to think through how big a sheet of MDF is and then find exactly the right size that you can get away with without using or sacrificing or getting rid of an excess little bit of material. That's where we are with the Reference line. We are literally thinking of, okay, we've got materials that come in that are this big. How many cuts can we make in that material to give you a cabinet size that's exactly right for a 6.5-inch floor or an 8-inch floor without using any scrap? And the amount of cents add up to dollars, and those dollars go into crossover components and getting you something like larger horn or a steeper angled cone or a redesigned driver that is capable of playing lower or with less distortion. And even, some of the forethought into the cabinet bracing is a large component of making those resonances go away. And how can we take those little elements of wood that's left over and utilize it in the same speaker that we're building in order to make it acoustically sound that little bit better in a measurable way?
Yep. Hey, Matt, I saw a great question. Vlad, you'll like this one too. Somebody asked, looking to get into Klipsch, what would you say makes new Reference and Premiere Series perfect product to do so? And this is kind of an interesting question, because I know there are a lot of young people, I have 3, that love music, but are learning about audio quality. And audio quality is relative, right? It's what you're used to. Maybe you grew up with in-ear headphones with your iPhone, but when you get into audio, like loudspeaker systems in your home, reproducing music and movies, what's interesting about Klipsch, and this is kind of cool, people who are new into this, it's not like something you have to work toward. It's not like you have to study and then you have a test. Okay. Basically, what you do is you buy some Klipsch, live with them for a year, and then when you listen to something else, you're probably going to be dissatisfied. Okay. It's just your ears naturally acclimate. They train themselves. Okay. And this is why we have such a powerful fan base. People who love Klipsch and can't be satisfied by anything else.
You don't go back.
Now, I got into audio when I was 15, 14 years old, and I kind of took it all in. But then I kind of saw how, wow, this brand, they're doing something different over here, and it's creating these really passionate people. What is it? And then, of course, now I'm an employee, but I kind of get it now after all these years. And then musicians too. I would reach out to musicians that, if you know what instruments sound like, if you're in a band, let's say you were in the school band, you were maybe you were a flautist or clarinet or sax or whatever, trumpet, percussion, pick an instrument. You also know what those other instruments sound like, because you were in close proximity. If you were in marching band, you know what dynamics are about. If you're in a rock band, okay, you know what drums and cymbals sound like. That is what Klipsch deliver. They deliver that alive sound of music, and you will be spoiled by Klipsch. I'm going to say it. I am biased. I'm going to admit it, but you will be spoiled, and then you will find that, I really can't listen to this other stuff because it just doesn't sound like Klipsch. And that doesn't mean Klipsch has a sound. We don't ever want to say Klipsch has a sound. What we want to say is Klipsch sounds like the real stuff, the real music.
And on that note, I am shocked and pleasantly surprised that you started with flautist. That's fantastic. Oh, I love that. I know several flautists.
I love the flute. I think it's a beautiful instrument. I love it. One of my girls played the flute,
So I rediscovered some of my love for music through something I uncovered recently, just staying up late at night listening to music, watching movies. And Walter Nelson earlier posted a question. I own many SACDs and DVD audios. How does that tech sound on these? It's actually a very good question, because I was actually talking to a senior merchant from a company about DVD audio earlier today, and how it's a forgotten about format, right? So this DVD audio was mastering in either uncompressed or 5.1, live concerts, pre-recorded albums, lots of really, really great content. I found a list of dual disc releases that came out on DVD audio, and also discovered that my Xbox and I think PS5 and most Blu-ray players are backwards compatible to DVD audio. So you can go to Amazon, you can find this link that I think Brittany's going to post for us. Hopefully there's an album or two in there that tugs at your heartstrings. Go out on Amazon, find it on dual disc, pop that into your Xbox or DVD player, and experience how awesome it is to have something that's been mastered with the intent of 5.1. Because what happened in the last couple of years is with Dolby Atmos, and this ties all the way back to the Dolby Atmos immersion question, is Dolby Atmos is really phenomenally immersive, especially when it comes to upmixing. What I'm most surprised by is when I play YouTube TV, which is in stereo, and hit the Dolby Atmos button on my Pioneer LX505, how amazing it is that it'll take the vocals, it'll throw them at the center channel. I get the crowd noise that's in the background. Now take that same experience and upmix 5.1 DVD audio of the 2 records that I've recently bought in dual disc, 9 Inch Nails, The Downward Spiral, and Foo Fighters in your honor. Those were the two that I found. And you know, Nine Inch Nails with Teeth is actually one of my favorite albums. Yeah. I picked that one up as well. I have it on 180 gram vinyl. I have it on so many different formats. But once I listened to those, I was blown away by Dolby Atmos experience of a 5.1 DVD-A disc. Man, grab them, get them now. You're probably going to go on Amazon. You're going to find these discs for like $4 or $5 a piece, and buy them up before they're all gone, and listen to them with a Klipsch DVD-A Dolby Atmos upmix system. It's awesome.
I like upmixing. It's fun. It's a lot of fun.
Rabbit hole.
So are we going to get into the engineering videos? I mean, I think we're just so everybody knows, we're probably going to run a little longer than an hour today because we do have so much to cover. Yeah. I hope everybody's okay with that.
Yep. I want to move us along and start. We're going to integrate RP, Reference Premiere, into the conversation a little bit. Yep. So, Brittany, take it away.
Okay, Matt, I have to confess to you, every time I see that, this is what I'm doing. Everybody, I don't know if you know this, but Matt Summers produces all these videos, and he's often playing all the instruments. He orchestrates this unique music.
Some of those tracks, some of them. That one's not me. That one was curated. Vlad and I picked that one together.
Okay, but it is also our shared musical taste that influences some of this stuff. That was reminiscent of not Chemical Brothers. What's the other group that we like? Crystal Method, right?
Yeah, that was what we were going for. There was just that sort of like, you know, there's so much dynamic range in these speakers that, you know, sometimes electronic music really pulls that out. And you and I have a long history, and Vlad as well, of really loving electronic music for various reasons. You know, to me, it's the punk rock aggression that can come out in that. I think for Vlad, there's got to be something associated with dancing, because it moves you. I see you moving around every time you hear anything. For Mark, it's a collector. He's dissecting all of these layers of electronic music.
That's where we all hit it off. I mean, Matt, you're an encyclopedia of music, so it's not even fair. Like, I can go down any genre, but Mark too. I mean, you're a music lover through and through, and it goes through every genre. And when I came to Klipsch, I think, Matt, I talked to you first about, I came from Detroit. So Detroit techno was a big component of my growing up, electronic music, and Kevin Saunderson, and real, you know, 4 on the floor, kind of minimal music, all of that. And it's because it moves you. There's a rhythm to it. You know, what's the rhythm of a heartbeat? I thought it was 128 beats per minute, or somewhere in the vicinity.
120
when you're working out and dancing. When you're dancing, maybe. You know?
Yeah, exactly.
So we also had a amazing love, all of us, for trip hop, for slowed down electronic music. Beautiful vocals over the top, and really cool.
I love ambient. I love deep frequencies. I'm a believer in subwoofers to do the deepest octave only. So if you've got towers, you need the big subs, right? You need, 30 hertz on down. I'm a big advocate of that. We're going to have some very exciting.
Are we getting into a subwoofer conversation? I don't think so right now. I don't think we want to have that. At this
later this year.
There's another time.
Yeah, that's another time. But we're working hard at some pretty cool new stuff. But so we saw the video, we saw the Faraday rings, the shorting rings, these low distortion techniques, things we're doing. By the way, everybody, remember when we put the rubber on the horn of Reference Premiere? Do you remember that? That was a tribute to like some of the audiophile enthusiasts. I'll say enthusiasts instead of fanatics, but they would stick clay on the back of La Scala metal horns, exponential horns back in the day.
I remember that for resonance reduction.
Roy Delgado, if you're listening, it was a tribute to our audiophile Pilgrim fans who would dampen the metal horns of yesteryear's product, La Scalas or whatever, and we dampen the Reference Premiere horns with the rubber treatment. And that is essentially what we did with the cabinets, dampening the bass sections. So just making them inert for absolute clarity. And then, of course, how that has trickled down into Reference. It's just great stuff. So you saw all those details of the videos. Now, what's kind of cool is what we're going to show. Is it Chris Perrins?
Chris Perrins next.
He's going to reveal some other little details that are little inside, really cool information about what we did and what is unique to Klipsch about some things we can do based on the laws of physics, high efficiency, some of the benefits of what we can do, how we can make performance even greater with. And by the way, Chris is our chief acoustic engineer,
lead acoustic engineer, yes,
for a while, and he is a perfectionist, I will say, and just like Paul Klipsch, Roy Delgado, Jay. Chris is very much a perfectionist. I'll just tell this story real quick. When we did the original Reference Premiere line, I remember going by his desk and he had all these phase plugs all across his desk. I think it was 80 plus individual pieces, numbered, cataloged. And I said, "What is this?" And he said, "These are all different. You can only see the differences when you really look closely or maybe even under the microscope. And the little subtle differences, I'm measuring, I'm analyzing, he's creating the files, the fast printer to actually grow the phase plugs and measure them, kind of like Paul Klipsch, where he was fanatical. The only difference was when Paul Klipsch had his techs grow the horns out of fiberglass and wood materials back in the day, Matt, if he didn't like the measurements, he'd throw a folding chair across the
right. That's not Chris's style at all.
He would throw expletives out there because he knew it'd be another 3 weeks before he could get another horn to measure. However, Chris Perrins, the next day he could grow his more perfect phase plug for the next generation. So that's the kind of guy Chris is. He's also.
What I'll say about Chris, Mark, is two things. One, he's probably one of the most principled audiophiles I've ever met. Just for his standards and what he appreciates and what he doesn't appreciate. And secondly, he is also one of the most camera shy people I've ever met as well. So you people are so lucky. That's why we hardly ever see interviews with Chris. He does not care to be on camera. Everything he does is echoes throughout the industry. So
this is a rare video, people.
This is a rare
enjoy video. Enjoy, because this is who is Chris Perrins? It's a mystery, but now we're going to see.
Now you know.
Hi, I'm Chris Perrins. I'm Chief Acoustic Engineer here at Klipsch. I've been with the company for 16 years now. So a little bit about changes we made to the drive units, starting with the tweeter. We added a copper cap to the magnet structure to help reduce the distortion, improve the clarity. We also removed the ferrofluid. I mean, the main reason for using the ferrofluid is to help cooling of the voice coil, to help with power handling, which with a larger horn, we actually don't need the reduction in temperature because we're so efficient, especially at lower frequencies with this larger horn. The idea was we maximize the usable area of the baffle, get the biggest horn we can, and improve the directivity control to a lower frequency, increase the power handling of the tweeter, especially at low frequencies. As well as the changes we've made to the tweeter, we also made some improvements to the woofer by adding an aluminum shorting ring to help reduce the distortion. So aside from what's different on the outside, we focused on the inside differences, starting with the cabinet and the bracing. We beefed up, in every model, we beefed up the bracing to help stiffen up the cabinet and reduce, unwanted vibrations. And on the floor standers, we took a leaf from the RF-73 book, where we divided the cabinet into two smaller sections. So what that allows us to do is control the internal standing waves a little easier, because they're higher in frequency, they're easier to handle. The last change that is behind the scenes that you don't see is the refinement to the actual voicing of the speaker. So we spent a long time listening to competitors, listening in different rooms to get a really good natural response out of this speaker. So with this new Reference Premiere line, we bring improvements to the horn, the drivers, the cabinet, and a refinement to the voicing.
Yes, Mr. Chris Perrins.
There you have it.
It's hard to get him on camera, and it's funny because his office is a couple of offices away from ours in product development, and picking his brain regularly goes through the whole series of experiences that he's had. The way we get to the next evolution in Reference Premiere is over many years of attempting to get better. And attempting to get better without spending a whole ton of money. That is a I'm sure. Here's an example. For example, Chris really loves the idea of using stranded bamboo to construct the entire speaker cabinet because it's incredibly inert. But if I was to take the stranded bamboo cabinet instead of MDF for a Reference Premiere, RP600M, the cost would probably double or maybe even triple, and the acoustic improvement would definitely be there, but it's a law of diminishing returns. Are we willing to increase the price of the product?
But that's the kind of guy you want in acoustic design.
And
that's the kind of guy.
Yeah, and we sample and we try and we definitely work at it, but in doing so, we find a couple of those things that, oh wow, this makes a major improvement to the crossover, what you did here.
So we've had a couple questions about really what are the improvements, and I in my extensive listening and demonstration and explanation, I've come up with some pretty basic descriptives of the improvements. What I found is that because they're even cleaner, they have even greater dynamic.
The design of our product starts very far in the future.
Tony, there's Tony. We'll get into. There's Tony. That might be my cue to just let our ID guy.
Sorry, I was queuing up the video. It started playing.
Well, anyway, what I was going to say was, you have freedom to turn up the volume with these new RPs and the Reference. Greater dynamic headroom. It's just amazing how it doesn't seem to be a limiting factor. Your amplifier may be your limiting factor of how much clean power you have. In an AVR, we've had some questions. We addressed this earlier, but how an audio video receiver distributes power to all the channels simultaneously versus a 2-channel system that has ample power. That dynamic headroom is what it's about. Effortless dynamic peaks, so that you don't hear any limitation in the drivers or the amplifier. So everything stays clean. You don't want your amplifier straining. That keeps distortion out of the picture. And the speakers, with Klipsch, they're not straining either. So that's why they kind of invite you, if they don't taunt you, to turn the volume up. And then pretty soon you're rocking, and maybe with a healthy volume that maybe normally you wouldn't. Now here's another thing let's talk about the RP600s, which a lot of people consider a benchmark, and then of course are a telltale for the rest of the line. Vlad, you and I have talked about this, how what Chris has done is he's created and he did with this with the prior line, but certainly with Mark II, it's even better, how there's this benchmark of absolute accurate natural sound, tonal balance, this presentation in all the models. And as you get into the larger models, like if you go for 500 or 600, or then you get into the 5,000 tower, or the 6,000s or the 8,000s, you just scale up the speakers. They basically scale in the sound delivery into a larger space. Or if you have a more normal space, it doesn't have to be cavernous, but this is a 3,000 cubic foot room, and I have 8,000s in here. But I've also played the 600s in here, and they fill the room. So it really is a matter of scale. How much sound do you want in your given environment? And then you just choose the speakers that will play at a higher volume. But they all have the same character. They absolutely, when you look at the response curves, the distortion, they are just the same. And what scales is the sensitivity. Okay. Now this is maybe counterintuitive, but the larger the Klipsch speaker, the less power they need. Okay. That's kind of funny, isn't it? But if you have plenty of power, when you get the larger speakers, you're just going to get greater dynamic range. Isn't that cool? That's a cool little bonus. Now, here's another thing about the RP600Ms, which everybody is very aware of. They're very in tune. How could they be better? Well, they are. And it's all those things added up. But here's something that you may have read in reviews, in high-end reviews, slam factor. What is slam factor? Let me just say that because of the grip on the air that Klipsch have with the horn and the low frequency alignment, the cabinet, the bass reflex alignment with the woofers, the RP600s have slam factor. They have this ability to move the air in such a way that you feel it. It's impactful. Slam factor is about dynamics and effortless sound. And when you have heavier music, they deliver that punch. And that is what's a really cool way to describe these new Mark IIs. They just take it to another level.
You know, we've got another video, actually a couple of videos, and I know we're after 5, so thanks everybody for staying after class. We're going to get some extra credit for this. But really, we've got a video from Tony Martin queued up that I'd like to talk about. You know, Tony, as we know, is head of the industrial design department at Klipsch, and basically everything that you see that comes out from the brand has Tony's blessing or his magical touch. So we'd like to talk to him about a little bit about what's going on with Reference and Reference Premiere. So Britt, if you could cue that video.
The design of our product starts very far in the future, way before the product launch date. Since the design of the product is one of the first tasks that must take place during the product development process, we have the pleasure of working on these products, sometimes even before other engineering disciplines are involved. And while a due date does exist in these early stages, it is off in the distance. So it's much easier to have time to think, to sketch out our ideas, to dream about the product until it is exactly right. This process has happened for all the generations of the reference speakers, but specifically for this 7th generation that we're talking about today, this development stage contained an enormous amount of thinking, sketching, dreaming, testing. To try to quantify this, we have a few facts. There are over 100 hand-drawn sketches, 2,000 hours of music played for acoustic testing. But this is work that we're happy to do because we know that all this effort yields thousands of happy customers. As mentioned before, this is the 7th generation of reference products, and with that comes many years, 6 previous generations worth, of success in the market. So we did not start completely anew with the design. This was not a completely blank piece of paper at the start. We built upon the successes of the previous and current versions. At Klipsch, we refer to this as an evolution, or an evolutionary step. So the design is really the culmination of many subtle aesthetic improvements. So what are some of those subtle changes that provide an improvement to the design? Let's talk about some of those changes now. The most visible difference from the current design to the new design is the removal of fasteners from the front face. All of the components look integrated and seamless into the baffle. We were very cognizant of where one component stopped and another began, and we wanted these interactions to happen at specific locations. The horn, for instance, now pushes all the way to the outer edge of the baffle to avoid an additional break line between the horn and baffle. The trim ring now sits flush with the baffle, and it has a corresponding color and finish, so that you receive more of a countersunk feel as opposed to a piece of trim being applied to the top. For the Reference Premiere line, we again looked closely at the interactions between components in the cabinet. So we again pushed the horn to the outer edge of the baffle to a more logical place at the edge. This provided a better visual balance between the woofer and the horn above. On the edge of the cabinet, we run the chamfer cut vertically, parallel down the entire side. This helps keep uniform spacing between the components. To add some dynamics back to the front view, however, we tapered the grille at the base. This gives the speaker a more athletic stance with broader shoulders and narrowing at the base. It also frames the logo better. This benefit's realized on all models, including the center channel, where the angle created is an improved angle for viewing the logo. As mentioned before, an enormous amount of thinking, sketching, dreaming, and designing went into the development of these products. So I thank you for listening to some of the detail aspects of these new designs.
Tony is Iron Man, everybody.
Yes. Yes.
Tony Stark. You know, I neglected Vlad to introduce everybody to you. Everyone has seen Vlad in prior videos as
Awesome.
our headphone expert, you know, our powered audio guru. But Vlad is our, I don't want to say new, but he has accepted additional responsibilities as director of product development. And what's interesting is when I met Vlad, when he started the company, we connected quickly on music, and then he already owned Reference products.
Let's face it, it was cars. It was cars where we connected first.
That's true. Cars, always a good topic. But then we, well, what else do we have in common? So Vlad is a very passionate, articulate, smart guy, and he's a great communicator. And as director of product development, he's done a great job in the launch of these products. I think that, talk about great timing. I think you really are enjoying these products. Am I correct, Mr. Gudzinski?
Oh yeah, my story with Klipsch started early on. I think most people here. It was a ProMedia 5.1 back in so many years ago. I read a Maximum PC review of comparing ProMedia 5.1 with a similar Logitech system, and the sound performance is what won us over at that time. And Mark, you were involved in the development of that.
I remember those days very well.
Yes. Yeah, and I desperately wanted to go into product management, and I loved these products. There's probably no other product I liked more than something that played audio. And initially, it was for PC gaming, and then it was music while doing homework and going through college and all of the above. So when I bought my first townhouse, I remember a very vivid memory, and it relates back to Nine Inch Nails as well. Of course, one of my favorite bands. Got the new townhouse, went to the local audio dealer, local audio rep, and listened to a Klipsch system. And it was the Klipsch Reference RF52 system that I brought home and set up with a Samsung 6 Series Touch of Color TV at that time, and I think an Xbox 360. And we got a Nine Inch Nails live album, and my dad and I sat on milk crates because I didn't have furniture first. This is how my priority system worked. It was get the Klipsch system, get the TV, get the Xbox, sit down and have a listen and have a watch.
That sounds totally normal to me.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know.
Bedroom furniture wasn't all sorted out yet. And
cheers. I'll drink to that. Cheers. That's the proper priorities.
For I think 2.5 hours, and I think it was starting at 11 o'clock at night. My dad just sat there and listened to the entire concert, start to finish. And at that point, I was like, if there's any opportunity, I am going to be working on this for the rest of my life. And that's how we got here.
Here you are.
I mean, I remember, sleeping on a twin bed so I could fit my hi-fi system in my bedroom at my parents' house, and then even later in a townhouse. It's like priorities, man. The audio gear is, this is my space for sound. Sleeping, that's not a huge priority.
It's a quality of life issue. That's what I'll boil it down to, is a quality of life issue. I want to interject. Sorry, I had to pop back on here, but first of all, congratulations, Vlad, for assuming the new role and just taking it and running with it. You're doing a fantastic job.
You're killing it, dude.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Cheers with your Coke Zero.
Yeah, I'm out of my little baby can now.
But secondly, I want to address a question that was in the thread. That was, wouldn't it be great if Klipsch made a series of amplifiers that harmonized beautifully, and I'm paraphrasing, with the new reference line? And funnily enough, we just happen to have a response to that. Our good friend Rolf is going to be talking to us about how to connect with Klipsch with the AVR world. Do you guys want to set this up a little bit?
This is very cool. Very cool.
I'm passionate about this one.
I want Vlad to talk about this, but I already have spoken about room correction and how I feel about Klipsch with control directivity. It's really your first step towards room correction, or I should say, not engaging your room as much, just really taking you to the space of the performance rather than coming to your house. Let's take you to the venue, okay?
Right.
Whether it's in the dunes, in the movie Dune, or the concert hall of Joe Satriani, or the chaos of John Wick,
transportation,
Star Wars, outer space, take you to that, transport you. However, taking it to the next level, there's a lot of great technology out, and that's where our friends within the Premium Audio Company are doing amazing work.
So room correction and something that Rolf is going to mention is called Klipsch Optimized Mode, available on a lot of new Onkyo and Integra receivers. And this was born out of something from a very long time ago. When I started at Klipsch in 2014, my first question to the acoustics engineers, and Mark in particular, I remember talking to you in 2014 about this, is I have just taken home a set of RF82s. What crossover do you set them at? Is it 80? Is it 60? Is it 40? Is it 50? I mean, which one is it? And what we're doing with this Klipsch optimized mode, now that we are partnered and, Onkyo is part of the Premium Audio Company, is answering that question the same way that I got that answer when I asked Mark and when I asked Chris Parents. They're taking the guesswork out of setting up a system. And why is this an issue? How many people have you helped set up their system at home? And when they took it home and they plugged it in and they ran room correction, it set all their speakers to large. And if it didn't, it set the crossover incorrectly. And they're having this compromised experience. And they still love it. They dig it. But doesn't it make you mad that it, for probably 30 or 40% of the people out there, their system could sound better with the components that they already have? So let's answer that question. That video queued up. Let's hear it from Rolf and how you do it and what it is.
Hello, I'm Rolf Hawkins, Global Product Manager for the Onkyo and Integra brands. Onkyo and Integra are synonymous with delivering clean, dynamic, high current amplification and pure, uncolored processing for a remarkably accurate reproduction of virtually any sound, no matter the source. We're proud to announce our exclusive partnership with Klipsch to provide our customers with a truly unique and exciting new feature, Klipsch Optimized Mode. Klipsch knows that you have an emotional connection to the music you love, and being able to reproduce the power and the detail in that music without compromise is at the heart of every design. And just as importantly, for the Klipsch speaker owner, it has to be easy to accomplish. That's why Klipsch engineers approached Onkyo and Integra with a bold new idea: to simplify the setup process of their Reference and Reference Premiere speakers, with remarkable results. All Onkyo and Integra audio-video receivers for 2021 include the precise crossover values for specific Klipsch Reference and Reference Premiere speakers, eliminating any guesswork or the sometimes arbitrary settings assigned by many automatic room calibration solutions. It's easy to set up in the AVR menu, and the result is peak performance out of already amazing sounding speakers. Let's take a look at how to quickly and easily set up Klipsch Optimized Mode in a 2021 Onkyo or Integra AV receiver. The setup menu for both brands will follow the same steps. Using the remote control or the front panel setup button, you'll see the main menu of configuration options. You'll want to select option 2, speaker, then select configuration and press enter. Here is where we'll tell the AV receiver how many speakers we'll be using. In our Integra DRX 5.4, which happens to have a 9-channel amplifier and an 11-channel processor, let's assume we'll also be using an additional 2-channel amplifier, such as the Integra ADM 20.4, to drive a complete 11-channel surround sound speaker solution. For this example, you'll see I've already pre-selected the 7.1.4 speaker layout, which deploys a pair of Dolby speakers in the front and a pair of Dolby speakers in the back. Just keep in mind that the illustration shown is an approximation of your speaker layout. It may not look exactly the same as what we'll be using here. The important thing to remember is that we need to make sure that what we choose are the appropriate number of speaker channels and which channels will be using Dolby speakers in the left column. After we've checked our speaker configuration, let's hit the return or back button, and then, staying in option 2, speaker, we're going to select the second option, crossover, and press enter. Here, all we need to do is scroll left or right using the arrow buttons on the remote or the front panel controls so that Klipsch appears in the crossover type setting. You'll notice at this time all of the crossover points for each channel are set to THX default 80 Hz. These will all change to the preferred crossover values when we've completed setting our system to Klipsch Reference or Reference Premiere models. Next, we'll press back or return and scroll down to Dolby Enabled Speaker. Press enter, and using the right arrow button, set the distance the Dolby speaker is located from the ceiling. In our system, we'll be using Dolby speakers mounted on top of floor standing speakers or bookshelf speakers. But if you were using in-ceiling speakers, you would enter in the distance here as well. I've pre-selected 6 feet. Again, let's hit the back or return button and, staying in option 2, speaker, scroll all the way down to option number 9, speaker combo, and hit enter. Staying at the top for a moment, scroll left or right until Klipsch appears. Now we can scroll down and channel by channel select the Klipsch Reference or Reference Premiere speakers we're going to use. Let's have fun and assign some new Reference Premiere models for the various channels and see what happens when we go back to the crossover section of the speaker configuration menu. We'll pick the RP8060 FA Mark II for the main front speakers, as well as an RP500C Mark II for the center. For the front height pair, we'll stick with the same RP8060 FA Mark II models we selected for the front channels. This will then assign the built-in Dolby speakers in the 8060 FA to the front height channels. Next, we'll select a pair of RP500SA Mark IIs for the height 2 channels. A couple of pairs of RP600M Mark IIs for the surround and surround backs, and an R120SW Reference Series subwoofer completes the speaker combo configuration. Okay, we're all set. At this point, all you have to do is hit the setup button to back out completely and return to your video or audio source to enjoy the optimized crossover settings for your Klipsch speakers. But before we do, let's just take a quick peek back at the crossover points in the setup menu and see if the default 80 Hz THX settings have changed. They sure did. Thanks for watching.
That's great.
It answers that question. It's a key question, and it really makes your system sound good and better. And there are many reasons why those crossovers were picked, but they were done in a properly tested engineering environment with those speakers and that subwoofer and so on. And it just, it really takes the guesswork out. And I think that's an important thing for setting up any receiver for that matter. All the time, you know, whatever room compensation you use, unless you're in the know, you're likely going to have a couple of bookshelf speakers that are selected as large, and you're missing out on an experience. You're not going to detect it for 6 months and kind of have to rewind and rewatch all your content again. That's how I feel. Anytime I screw up a setting, I'm like, are you kidding me? Oh man, like I had a setup that, you know, with the current speakers that I have. Speaking of which, there was a question earlier by Tyler Tucker, out of the 3 who actually has these in home currently for testing, personal, whatever. And I will say I went from RF82s, so the 8-inch floors, downsized into RP600Ms, Mark IIs, and I had to hear what it was all about. I went to RP600M Mark IIs. I went to an RP500C. I've got RP 502S surrounds, and I couldn't be happier in a 12 by 14 by 9 room. The RP 8000s were a little too big for my space. I had to put them way too close to the wall, and they were loading and starting to get muddy. And when I went actually to a smaller speaker, the RP 600M,
wow,
everything came together in the room. It really pinpoints the importance of finding the right speaker for your room size. You know, by really getting it right. And I love these speakers. Even my wife pointed out when I switched over the system, first she was like, no, we're not doing stand mounts. I want floor standing speakers. I don't want speakers on speaker stands. Once we put them on speaker stands, got them calibrated, dialed in, and watched on Netflix the new season of The Witcher, she was like, wow, I can hear the difference. I can tell the difference between that setup. And yeah, like I said, I couldn't be happier. I don't think there's another speaker for me in the world right now.
You know, Vlad, you're going to have to fill those speaker stands with buckshot because that's what we used to do back in the old days. You know, I remember my first audiophile experience was with a pair of Rogers LS35As, and it was with the buckshot filled stands. They weighed 50 pounds each, and the two speakers.
Don't forget to put your speaker wire on little spruce wood trestles.
Well, and it was a floating turntable, the whole thing. There was all this going on. So we did whatever we could to make it sound better. But
don't listen to your audio system unless it's 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. where everybody's off the electric grid.
Right.
Critical.
AC pure. You know, don't forget that.
Yeah, you got to make sure 100% impedance at all times. Yeah, crazy. So I got a couple of things I want to do because I know we got to wrap up, and there's a couple of things. One, we want to mention that best questions will win post in the thread. We're giving away a pair of reference bookshelves and a pair of reference Premiere bookshelves that apparently Vlad's living with right now and just loves. So we're going to do those things. I also have a couple of things I want to mention. One, Brittany Kelly, who is behind the scenes, always doing a fantastic job. Yeah. She is taking time out of her birthday today. In addition, she also manages all of the Klipsch social media stuff. So she is ubiquitous, but I want to make sure we scoot out of here at a decent time so we can give Brittany her birthday evening with the kids and stuff and be able to enjoy her life. Secondly, no one has mentioned my copper Klipsch hat. This is a Klipsch trucker cap. You can kind of see it's got the trucker cap vibe. But what I want to know from the group is, should we start offering more Klipsch merch online? Would you guys buy that stuff? So let us know. We're listening. You got our attention. So anyway, that's my promotional comment.
Well, let me also share that, you know, we go back. This is a kind of a funny comment here. You know, over the years, maybe no one has heard this before. Okay. But, you know, over the years, many years, we would basically explain our passion for the brand. And Matt, you if anyone knows about this, but now, of course, Vlad does before he even came on board, that the copper thing is about Paul Klipsch's. He is an engineer, and it's an engineering-based company. And the logos of the Klipsch horn were really on a copper plate and was embossed and then had black ink. So copper, and then we attributed it to where would we be without copper? You know, voice coils, elements of crossover networks, wire, everything in a loudspeaker. And then we just started to say, you know, we're so passionate about this brand. What else could we do? We bleed copper. Cut me. I bleed copper. You know, we're all about Klipsch. So that's where this came from. Okay. So somebody said, I want that shirt. And actually, okay, what's funny about this shirt is I put it on backwards today because on the front is a depiction of the new reference product.
Can you model that? Can you flip around for us, Mark? Can we see the back?
Of course I can.
Well, you don't have to turn the shirt around. Just
no,
look at that. Wow.
5:30. It's getting weird now.
So the front is basically a tower speaker, you know, reference Premiere, right? But I looked at the back of it and I was like, I'm going to wear that part today, So
you do. That's fantastic.
These are fun. I love to wear Klipsch gear. When I go out, if somebody comes up to me and they know Klipsch, it's like, that tells me a lot, about their understanding of audio. So it's kind of fun. So,
well, thank you guys for joining tonight. Obviously, it's been a really, I've been talking about this. We've been planning this for over a year. As we're going into the making of the product, as we're going into what are the refinements, as we're going into how do we want to approach the release of these products into the world, especially for people who already own reference products or own Klipsch products, or we're thinking about getting into, either entry level home theater or custom 2-channel copper cone goodness. I really feel like this is a great time for Copper and Black for Klipsch. For both Reference and Reference Premiere. So thank you both for providing some insight, and thank you to the engineers and the designers who showed up, and thank you for Brittany Kelly for doing this on your birthday.
Happy birthday, Brittany.
Happy birthday, Brett.
In fact, cheers to you.
Guys.
We're all in that celebration mode anyway, so happy birthday. Does anybody want to sing?
Where's your little can, Vlad? Metaphorically,
It's just empty. It's so sad. That's the problem with a tiny can, is it's like 3 seconds of drinking, and then
you can play the Beatles. Today is they say it's your birthday. That's a good birthday tune.
Also, Vlad, good luck with your move. You'll be in Detroit soon.
Thank you. Yeah, the drive starts now. You can't believe how many speakers you can fit in a small 4-door 2015 Audi. Apparently, as long as they're out of packaging, it's a pair of 6000Fs. It's a 500C.
Priorities.
And about 5 in-ceiling speakers. And maybe I'll pack some clothes too, but I can get clothes when I get there.
Hey, if you're going to do it like it when we were in our college days, first thing that goes up is your audio system. And then to tunes, you unpack everything, you set up your
build the room around it.
Right, exactly. Yeah. So that's the first, priorities. That's all. Everyone on this, everyone gets it.
The moment I get the keys to the new house, I'm going to start drilling holes in the ceiling. That's how much fun we're going to have.
Awesome.
To 9-inch nails.
Well, thank you guys for joining. Cheers. And we'll talk to you guys next time.
Everybody enjoy your Memorial Day weekend.
I'm sick to death of hearing things from neurotic, psychotic, big-headed politics. All I want is the truth. Just give me some truth. I'm sick and tired of reading things from uptight, short-sighted, narrow-minded hypocritics. All I want is the truth. Just give me some truth. All I want is the truth. Just give me some truth. Well, all I want is the truth. Well, just give me some truth. All I want is the truth. Well, just give me some truth.